Yellow, yellow, yellow. What's up? We're here. We're live. How we all doing? Checking it out on all the platforms. SWAT2157. What's up? Welcome to the stream. You can join me on Twitch, YouTube, Kick. You have your options. Most people are going to be on YouTube. But yeah, just enjoy the music for now, and we'll start in about a couple minutes. Unless you guys have any questions that you want to talk about beforehand. If you have any questions, since you're here early, I'm going to be joining a radio with Crypt Rick in just about a second. We did that last week. It went pretty well. We'll do it again. I'll be honest, I haven't done a lot of interviews. So last week I was pretty good, a little rusty, you know. But we just have a good time. That's all that matters. Share information that's new, unique, information that people need to hear, or perspectives that I think aren't being considered as things unfold in the world. Many things happen in our world. Let's see, got my cat back there. Got some decor. She's cool. Too bad I'm like just blocking the cat. How you guys doing? How you doing, SWAT? How'd you find my channel? I don't think I remember you in the chat. Maybe last week I think you were here, but I know I don't go live that often, so it's cool I get to do this to talk to different people who are interested in different ideas, and I want to know like what got you interested in my channel and my videos. How'd you find the channel? And if you don't want to chat, that's cool too. You could just hang out. Everybody's welcome. Alrighty, I'm gonna hop on with Crypt Rick soon. I'm gonna send him a message, be like, yo, I'm ready. And we'll get this party started. I'll join his studio for now. There we go, I'm muted.
What is taking your attention? Because I'm telling you, they are masters of distracting you and hijacking your consciousness. That's what they do.
Bitcoin? BTC? Bitcoin?
And so
well, yeah, I have a lot of friends and family who's benefited from that. I didn't get on it when I should have, but I didn't know about it and I was too young, so.
I just hope you guys found some value in it.
At least when it first started, But yeah, people use it. There's a lot of privacy chains, like privacy cryptos that people prefer instead, like Monero and Pirate Chain. Those are the top two I hear from truthers. But aside from that, I don't know a whole lot about crypto per se, since my work focuses a lot on like philosophy, psychology, more the nerdy stuff. But that can get pretty nerdy too. We have full out conversations about that on the land, and doing my different events, we talk about it all the time.
Corey, nature is the answer. He has done the documentary Cult World. You're going to want to check that out. And I'm going to make sure that we get into all of that and maybe get into what we just heard for the first hour. I would love to get Corey's thoughts on it, and
oh boy,
really
I wasn't paying attention to the last like 10-15 minutes.
It's kind of silly when you talk about it, but it is super important, and I am looking forward to having this discussion with Corey. So you're not going to want to miss hour 2, guys. Please stick around. We will be back very shortly. Hour 2 coming up, guys. Crypt Ricks, I've been thinking.
What do you guys think about BTC? What do you think about crypto? SWAT? You use it? Or do you use any of the privacy cryptos? But I know that definitely helps a lot of people. I don't know if you would use that in a case of a collapse scenario, as a lot of people are projecting. A lot of people suggest gold, silver, food being very important, and much more important than a lot of people may look at, because crypto gets a lot of attention online, especially scammers. But yeah, there's still value in it for sure. and we want to incorporate it. If on the land in our projects for the businesses, we want to have multiple different forms of currency for people. Can you get in Studio A with me? Just mute up causes breaks. Studio A. I'm in Studio A. Food source quality is the ultimate wealth. In a way, I would say nutrition is an ultimate wealth, because if you have food that isn't good nutrition, you're going to be eating this much food. But if you have this much nutrition, then you eat this much food, right? David Wolf uses that example, and so I just stole that from him. But it's a good example because people are eating a lot of foods that make them want to eat more food. And so quality does impact, your consumption and also your health and your mentality, of course. So health being a form of wealth is really important. And not only that, but you're self-sustainable. You don't have to rely on these massive grocery chains when things go down, especially. But yeah, food source quality, definitely important, but also quantity. In the case of, are you growing food? In a food forest would help you save space if you do it on, let's say, a small plot of land. You don't have to do rows and rows of plants like monoculture. And so, yeah, that could be very valuable. And then you trade that with other people who need food. Maybe you need bullets, or maybe you need metals of various kinds, right? And so people would be trading for that when things go down. And hopefully it doesn't, right? But a lot of people are saying it will. And again, this is not my wheelhouse, and I admit to what I don't know. But I'm pretty sure everybody can acknowledge that food is pretty important. And gold and silver and crypto right behind it. But they're all important in different ways for different purposes. And so I would say it's good to have each one. That would be the ultimate wealth. And the mentality of like that I can get through it, and that I'm not going to go crazy when everyone else goes crazy around me. And maybe I'll even have fun and have parties, right? Like here in Florida, when the whole COVID thing happened, I mean, people did not really care. They went to the beach. They had fun, right? If people don't care about the worldly things that are going on and they just live their life would be far better, because the news is not important news. The science is not necessarily science that people need to know. And science is going to actually benefit them. I mean, there's a lot of things that we create that we say we need, or a lot of things we consume that we say we need, but we don't necessarily need it. And so having that mentality of contentment, or presence, or just accepting like it is what it is what I like to commonly say, means like, things are going to happen, and you can expect it. In our world, the way it is right now, you can expect all sorts of things to happen. So when it happens, you're just going to be like, it is what it is. But I wouldn't also just wait around and say, man, it's going to happen, and so I'm going to prepare and do nothing about like waking people up and actually trying to change it or prevent it, because we absolutely can. And I believe that if influencers were to come together, things can change really quickly, especially just in independent media. And I've been very critical of independent media for that reason. And so, fun fact, talking about that, but I'm working on many different books and projects that actually show the action steps, what they look like, examples for independent media, so they know they don't just have to sell supplements and t-shirts or the latest news to their followers. Because at a certain point, you look at their comments, everybody says, man, the world needs to change. And what are we doing to organize? What are we doing to take action? And David Icke gets the question all the time, what's the action? And he says, well, the action is look at the problem. It's right in front of you. Is that really satisfying for a lot of people? I don't think it is. I don't think consuming content or even just finding out what the truth is truly satisfying for even the truther who's learned everything. I think it takes some level of strategy in actively trying to show by example and civil disobedience, nonviolent resistance. I think those are methods and those are ideas that aren't explored enough in the independent media, if you want my opinion. So,
welcome back, everybody.
good timing.
Already into hour 2. I hope you did enjoy the first hour. I thought it was a great amount of information, something that is
Hope I answered your question, by the way. Welcome everybody to the stream.
Enough of that. I want to welcome my guest Corey Enderlot back to the show. He has the YouTube channel Corey Nature is the Answer. Has also done an incredible documentary called Cult World that I cannot recommend enough. I'm going to make sure that you guys get all this information so you can go check Corey's workout, check and support him. Welcome to the show, Corey. It is so great to have you back here again.
Thank you, Crypt Rick, and thank you, Revolution Radio. I appreciate being here and sharing different ideas, different perspectives, get people's minds open, hearts open as well, of course. We can't forget that maybe the heart will move the mind more than anything else, and that maybe we have to show by example, demonstrate different ideas that aren't talked about even in the independent media. I was just talking about some of that with somebody in my chat because I'm live on my end as well, and so I'm very proud to be connected with you. Crypt Rick, cool. Thank you so much, man.
Oh, absolutely. I love our conversations, and I thought the first hour was super interesting just getting, because Corey, I'm really like talking about the social media aspect of it.
Yeah.
Because I see the effects, and I like I was saying in the first hour, I get it. I see the positive, and but I see a lot of people talking about all the great things that social media has brought for us and technology, but I always want to talk about, I not want to harp on it, but I want to make people aware that there is a darker side to it. And my biggest thing that I was saying, and I've been saying for a while now, is that people seem to be losing a few abilities. One is to hold focus for any long period of time. And another one I'm noticing in real life, in my life, is that people are losing the ability to have a one-on-one conversation with you. It's weird. Like, it really is, and it's disturbing, because you try to sit down and talk with somebody, Corey, and we've all experienced it. They're on their phone, they're not paying attention, and I just say to people, test somebody, ask them what you just said to them while they're on their phone, and they'll say they don't have a clue what you're talking about.
Absolutely true, man. I've observed that many times, especially in my generation, talking with them. And I'll tell you what, Crypt Rick, I mean, I go on the streets and I talk with people. I start up in real life events. I talk to a lot of older folks. And it's not because, I don't get along with the younger folks. It's because the younger folks aren't there. Because even if they are there, they're on their phones. So they're not really there. And that's a problem, because it's a distraction. And it's a really good distraction. And it does play on your dopamine. And it does feed you all sorts of agendas and stimulations. And even if it's information, it's an overload of information. It's information that just our bodies can't keep up with. There's this whole idea of we're stuck in our minds all day and thinking about ideas, and we're overthinkers, or we have anxiety and ADHD, and we have autism and all these problems, especially with these coming generations. And then there's the idea that we need to get into the body and we need to be more present, and that we are pushing ourselves too hard, or that we're overstressing, overreacting. How many people are overreacting on social media? And what gets the views? Overreaction, right? Playing things very dramatized. I grew up in theater. That was the name of the game. The more dramatic you are, the more entertaining you are, the more people will watch. But what time do you have to sit back in silence if you're surrounded by it? You live in the city and there's advertisements everywhere and people all have phones. And I'm not trying to make it all sound like doom, because you can develop and manifest, in a way, different people and environments that suit that presence and that calmness. And you can even go to the park in the city. There's all sorts of things you can do.
Yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying, Corey, and I think what I try to tell people is moderation. You have to be, what I like to even use for myself, and I usually use myself as an example on a lot of things, because it's happening to me, and I'm as guilty as most people having their
Same.
attention hijacked. I'm just as guilty as everyone else. I want to make that very clear. I'm not trying to throw stones at anyone.
Yep,
But what
me too.
I am working on, what I'm working on is becoming aware of what's hijacking my time. Like, where's my time being invested? And I think it sounds silly. It really does. But when you start becoming conscious of it and really focusing on what is hijacking your thoughts and your emotions, which is a big one, like that's what they really focus in on, is your emotions. And you see that with people divided now, and it's sad to see that people are so divided now, because technology can be such an amazing thing. It's making this interview happen. It's making
Right.
You're on my radio show. You're on your YouTube channel. We're doing this live. That's incredible. This is so powerful.
It's insane. It's insane, and that's
hijack
precisely why it's dangerous. And this is how opposites work, my friend. And this is, we talked about cults last week. That's how they work, though. I mean, it's the effectiveness, it's the goodness in them that makes it dangerous. And that's what makes politics dangerous. Oh, this person sounds good. This person looks like me. Oh, this person is saying exactly what I'm thinking. That's what makes it dangerous. And until people can understand why that is, how that operates, I think, it's a trap. You're going to be trapped in this matrix that is always going to try to bring you into some sort of box or ideology or way of thinking. And even in the truth movement, you fall down a certain rabbit hole, you're going to be exposed to more and more of it. You start to lose touch with the reality outside of it, just as much as the person who is trapped completely in the matrix, who doesn't have any exposure to truth information. So it's one thing to say, like, hey, I'm on technology, and I'm like, be aware of technology. And another to be like, I'm on technology, and now you should consume more of that technology. I try to foster a self-awareness, right? So it's like you're using it, and you're using it consciously. It's a tool, and you know that you're not becoming the tool of your tool. But that requires that you constantly ask yourself the question, is this person true? Is this idea true? Am I right? Could I be wrong? And if you're always challenging yourself as such, it's going to be hard to fit into a box. One, you're going to make some people upset who like to be in the box because it's comfortable too. But three, you're going to find a lot of innovation, and you're going to have to be your own content creator. You're not just going to be a consumer. You're going to be one of those people. And then soon you might be like, darn it, well, I don't want you to be a follower. I want you to be a leader too, right? So I'm trying to cultivate leaders. I'm trying to cultivate people who can be among me, not just followers, right?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? With social media and everything, it's always followers.
Exactly.
It's just like, wow, like, don't you have this, like, I just have this urge, like, I've always had this urge to just do things, like, and try new things, and I'm very excited to learn new things. I'm very curious by nature, and it's got me in trouble as a kid, because I was like one of the, like a cat. I was always getting myself into trouble because of that curiosity, and that has just really gotten bigger as I've gotten older. But you have to, like you just said, you have to be very aware of where your attention's being diverted, because they're sneaky at it. Like you said, they're very good at it. And I don't know, like we kind of talked about AI and stuff like that, and like I said, we were talking about it. I don't know, man. I don't like. I want to get into this with you because we were kind of we got into it a bit. But
Sure.
I want to kind of dive into deeper, because you're really liking AI, and I am too, to a degree. I mean, what do you think? Like, I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah. Well, that's
That's
exactly it, right? So I'm not putting myself in the box or the camp that says it's all bad, or the camp that says it's all good, this is the future savior of humanity. It's just like any other man-made thing. It's just a thing, and I don't really value it as like some special thing. I value relationships, consciousness, truth, like the things that I can feel and experience that mean a lot to me, that contribute to my health, to my sanity. If AI is not contributing to my health and to my sanity, I mean, that's a problem. And for a lot of people, it's not. But again, it doesn't mean it can't ever, because there has been the case where people have used it to increase their consciousness. Now, at what cost is then another question, right? Because there's sometimes benefits that come with these things where we don't see the cost, and that's where it gets tricky. And then sometimes we find that out over time, and we're like, oh shoot, well, I thought it was good, but it's not really good. And I think the question is what I often propose in my own philosophy, naturosophy, which studies the nature of things, which emphasizes the importance of nature, is to understand that what exists, what persists is what is to exist. You know, what is really natural, what is necessary for humankind will reveal itself over time, and we can't grow too attached, especially in these starter stages of this technology. Your wariness is good and should be expected, but a lot of people are going to fall head over heels almost immediately. They shouldn't. And other people are going to block it out almost immediately. Well, they shouldn't either, right? Because you can't resist change. Change is a law of nature. So if you want to be on the flow of things, but you don't want to, you know, fight the tide, and you also don't want to just go with the tide, you need to balance it, just like anything else. So that's my view on this, and it's one of nuance, it's one of discipline, it's one of a hard kind of determination, because you can't put it in a box. It's the same way, like if I were to ask you, like, you know, what is love? It's like, what is magic, in a sense? What is you know, who are you actually? And it's going to become less definable. It's going to become harder to understand the more you try to use words, the more you try to philosophize about it, and you realize it's going to come down to a greater nuance where you bring in emotion and empathy and intuition, and people are already doing that with AI, and it's going to have all sorts of different complications and different things happen, but it's all going to be part of this learning process. So no matter what happens,
it's definitely it's actually an exciting time. I tried to look at it, and you said it kind of perfectly, Corey, is that I look at it as a tool. And at first I was really against AI. Like, I was just like, I don't want any part of it. I just think that we're really got to be careful. And that's all I'm saying. It's just a word of caution.
Absolutely.
Mongering. I think we're really on an unexplored territory. And I think that we're so eager when something new comes out that a lot of people embrace it. They want to master it. They want to get right involved with it without thinking of the consequences, or if there will be any consequences. I don't know. We're seeing it. But I think it's just a caution, like you said. And I do look at it as a tool. I've seen people do great things with it, and I've seen people use it for, you know, not so good things, and that's the problem. So that's the balance. But I do have a question. If you want, I got somebody in the chat that wanted me to ask you: is AI being sold to us as a way to soft sell Skynet to the world?
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I mean, Skynet, all that stuff predicted it. Aldous Huxley, George Orwell, they predicted it. They talked about the future of dystopia and what it would look like. It's good that we have some writers of the past who talked about it. It's harder to find, like, sources going past 100 years ago talking about technology, and I wish there was, but it's because who could have ever kind of predicted it? And that's part of the reason why I think it's never really a good thing to be in a position of fear, and always to be aware, though. Like, to be aware, but not in a position of fear. If the two can exist, right? Like, you don't have to be in a state of paranoia where, like, everything is bad and fearful, but you could be in a position where it allows you to learn, and it's an opportunity. I feel like that's where anything could be in this life. There's a common Chinese like parable and story in ancient times where there's this farmer, and he keeps losing animals on his farm, and everybody keeps mourning for the farmer. They're like, oh my gosh, it must have been so bad you lost your animals. And his response was like, well, it is what it is. We'll see what happens tomorrow. And then the next day, the animals return. And then everybody's like, oh my gosh, you got your animals back. And then the next day, they left again. And then everybody's like, oh my gosh, they left again. And the farmer is just like, listen, things are gonna happen. Like, I'm doing the best I can, but like, you're mourning and then you're like happy. Like, you're in this constant flux where you're never actually stable emotionally because you're being swept by the events and the current day-to-day things happening. So with this AI, it's like, oh my gosh, this whole new thing. Shouldn't you be fearful? Or shouldn't you be like this or that? It's like, no, I'm just gonna be the way I am. And if I know myself, it's like, I'm not going to let anything take control of me. I'm not going to let anything dictate my actions or my thoughts. And I'm going to learn from everything that happens and have that self-reflection and be like, what if something could be really manipulative? Because I think the big fear for AI is that it's not just something that is man-made. It's something that is much more than that. It's an amalgamation of the man-made. It's a compilation. It's when you bring it together. It's when you're trying to actively replace or create a new reality. That's where I think the grandiose fear is. It's kind of like the fear of death in a way. You don't know who you are. It actually totally alienates your personality. That's where I think there's like this intuitive, perhaps, fear that I don't blame people have. And I think that's a good thing that they have that fear, just as much as it is to have conscience. And I think that's going to be desensitized over time as people become more and more exposed to it without self-reflection and without nature. But notice that disclaimer I gave. We're already detached from nature by living in houses, by using this technology. I'm just telling you right now, there's a lot of things, a lot of wisdom that I could have if I wasn't on this thing. You know, people might think like, I have this knowledge about this thing or that thing. It's like, not really. And our ancestors were really stupid and they were unintelligent. Like, we don't know that. Right? It's like they were living in a world where they were sitting under the stars and they were looking at the fire. They were having conversations. They were interacting with the natural world day in and day out. They were constantly having the time to reflect on themselves or what they're doing. You say, well, they were fighting all the time. They were having to get food all the time. Okay, you can make the case and say, well, we don't have to worry about that as much. And so now we can pursue other things. But again, at what cost? It's like there is still a emotional and health benefit to harvesting our own food. Why is my cat destroying my room? Sorry. To some of the things that we say, oh, well, we shouldn't have. Like last week you mentioned like, well, what about AI replacing people's jobs? Some people are going to be like, man, I kind of want to work. And there might be a resurgence where people are like, we got to all go back to work because this is, what else are we going to do with our time? Like, there's going to be this interesting challenge where it's going to force self-reflection, and it's going to ask us about our own values, and it's going to ask us about what we want to do. But the fact that we can choose what we want to do, if AI gives us more freedom than ever, that will be very interesting, wouldn't it? Because that means there's more potential for danger, but there's also more potential for good. So if we have more leisure time because we're not harvesting food and doing all the things we did for thousands of years and working 9 to 5, we could be spending that time on becoming better people and actually developing moral character and learning the arts. But since that's not being taught right now and AI is not at that extreme point, then there must be a greater problem at play. And that's what I want people to look at. It's not AI. It's the cults. It's the ideologies. It's the way they perceive themselves. Because as long as you don't have that fundamental self-ownership principle or the idea of knowing thyself or what is nature, everything else goes out the window. It doesn't matter what gets created in the world. It's not going to be very safe or harmonious because you don't understand the groundwork. It's like if you're building a building and you don't have the foundation, the building is not going to last. And once we develop this AI so much where it starts developing itself, we don't even know what got it to that point. And then what happens when it all falls apart? Do we know how to get back up there?
That's a good question, actually.
Yeah, you get so wrapped in that man-made world, you can't even conceive of the world that you came into. As the Christians talk about, oh, I know God, I know the origin story of humankind. I think it's a profound ignorance that they have to understand, which actually brings them to a greater level of enlightenment to say, man, I didn't live there and I don't know, and these are translations and these are interpretations and there's this book. Becoming self-aware of the foundation of the very material they have, or the fact that there's something beyond the word that is called emotion, or the fact that there are other religions that have the shared themes or different themes. But no, I found mine, it works, I know already, I know this is the truth, I looked at all the other ones, this is the only truth. It's the ideologies we convince ourselves of that's the real problem here. Because people are going to take AI and say, this is the savior. And other people are going to say, this is the devil. And meanwhile, the people in the middle are always the ones that get screwed, aren't they?
Oh, for sure, yeah. And I'm kind of, I get, and that's what I find. You said some really good stuff there that I'm trying to kind of prioritize in what I want to say. Because I love the fact that you're talking about nature, and I think that you're very correct when there's something about the experience of doing things out in nature, and there's a real great value to it, and it's a great teacher. And believe me, if I didn't have my condition, Corey, I would be out in nature. Like I always tell my wife, you should thank God that I'm not healthy enough to be camping and out in the woods, because I would be. I loved it. I was doing it constantly as a child until I couldn't do it because of my condition, and I learned so much. But not just about nature. I learned a lot about me, about who I was, and I thought it was so. And I look back in those moments still to this day. Like there were some really powerful lessons that I learned, and I think that we're losing that. Like you said, we're all disconnected from nature, some more than others. I try to be out in nature like you and stuff, and I plant gardens and stuff. Like I'm staying as connected as I can for where we are. And I think it's important, and I think we've lost that ability. I just think we've lost a lot. Technology is a great thing, but it's coming with a price, and I just got to keep telling people that. Like, be aware that we are losing. We're losing. It's a trade, and you have to be aware of it, and you have to realize that there's things that we are losing because of this technology. But I'm not saying that you can't get it back. I think you can do both. I do both. You do both.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
you can marry these things together, but the problem is I think a lot of people are all one way or all the other way kind of thing.
Yes. So in naturosophy, I actually represent that through three main steps, which are like the three main action steps, which is taking a step back, radical honesty, and then what we just described as compensation. So compensation would be like, let's say you have man-made things in your life. If you're aware of what those man-made things are and what they're doing to you, which again is a continual learning process because you may not be fully aware, then you can supplement in a way or complement your own nature. With that man-made thing, it's not going to become, an abusive relationship. It's not going to be something that is unhealthy, right? Or pathological. So that's where compensation comes in. It's like, okay, I have this unnatural thing in my life. How could I bring more of nature into my life? So let's say I live in a house. That's a good example. Or I have this room, right? A way I can make it more natural is by including plants. And scientifically, it is known that if you have a plant on your desk or in your room, you're going to be a healthier individual. You're going to have a better mind on your hands. And maybe that's not everybody's forte, but there's other ways as well. Maybe it's grounding sheets. Maybe it's essential oils, aromatherapy, right? Feng shui of how you design your room to begin with and the way it contributes to your mindset. These are all ancient arts that go back thousands of years based on studying human nature and our connection with our world. So that's some examples of compensation. Radical honesty, I think, is quite self-evident, which is why I don't talk about it as much, although it's really important, which is that people should always be honest, no matter what happens, in any case, in any scenario. And I challenge people who have to say that, like, maybe you should lie here or lie there. Well, really, why do you have to lie? Right? That's a problem. You shouldn't have to lie. If people think that they should lie and that it's justified to have disease or it's justified to do immoral action, that's the biggest problem that humanity faces. It's the justifications that we create for ourselves to continue behavior that we don't want to challenge, that we are taking. And again, just basic belief systems we don't want to challenge, even if they are true. And then taking a step back, which can be a form of meditation. It can be a form of presence, one way or another. And generally speaking, there's many different practices to help people do that. Qigong is something that I practice. Yoga for many other people. It could be a massage. It could be listening to music with headphones on and contemplating, listening to the music and hearing your own thoughts for once. I mean, any downtime basically allows you to channel in with the only home that you truly live in, which is your own body. If we can come to this minimalist type of simplistic view upon our reality, where we don't need more, then we can become quite content. And I think that's something that I strive for in my own life and what is taught among feng shui and some of these ancient arts, which is fascinating because although they didn't talk about AI and technology several thousand years ago, they did talk about how to be healthy. They did talk about, what can go wrong when people become materially obsessed or when they become attached. And those ideas apply to everything. So I find that profound. The number one thing that's going to get people out of this AI technocracy is going to be some source of spirituality or God. And you could be an atheist that's watching, and that's okay. Because if you look at people who suffer from trauma and some really deep problems, it's spirituality that helps them. It doesn't mean that you have to debate about what's true and what's not true, but to recognize that it's true in the sense of that it heals them, then maybe there's some truth there that we need to acknowledge.
Yeah, good points. Yeah, and geez, you say such powerful things that I really agree. I agree with a lot of what you're saying, and I think that that 3-part approach is really cool. And you said something that really stuck out is that you take that quiet time, and I think it's so important. And I don't think people do it nearly enough. Is that quiet time with yourself? Because I think Corey, people are really losing who they are. Just because of how fast everything is moving, how fast information, like just how radical everything is and coming so quickly at people, they've kind of lost touch of who they truly are. And I think that it's important that you take that quiet time. And I do know that a lot of people dread that. People do not. I've had people say they fear being in a quiet room with themselves, and I found that so sad when I heard that, because I love sitting with myself. I really do. I love
Me too.
Sitting there thinking and examining myself, and that honesty you said is super important, because I tell you, man, you can lie to yourself, and people do it. They justify, like you said, they make excuses.
Yep.
And it's really, you got to become aware of it. And that honesty part is a tough one at the start for some people, but I found that really shocking that people can't be alone with themselves. And I was just like, wow.
Absolutely.
Like, we've lost another thing we've lost, right? Like, we got to get to know who we are, and we're being influenced by so many exterior things bombarding us that we don't even know who we are. And to me, like I said, that's sad to me. It's just it's not how it should be.
And people are starting to see it, and this is why I tell people who watch my videos, like, it's okay to click off, it's okay to not watch me, because I don't want them to become consumers. And if anything, I want to help you if you want to be your own producer and your own content creator, because you can't just have one person sharing what people need to hear in regards to slavery and cults and the ideologies being a problem for humanity. And it's not just ideologies, it's identities that come with it, right? Because again, these are all falsities. You're not the thing that you described yourself to be. And it's the same obsession that, again, Christians or different people, different worldviews, they attach to their books and to their words. And there's such profound teachings within them, but that's because the words are pointing to them. Just like when Jesus died on the cross, he said, "God, why have you forsaken me?" He's pointing to something beyond him. Sometimes we lose the message and we focus only on the messenger. And this is a common thing on social media where, you're looking at a certain figurehead and, it comes from them, therefore it must be trustworthy. It comes from this source, therefore it must be true. Mark Passio, he's got a new seminar out, I got to go check it out. And, now I have to go into meditation because Mark Passio said so, right? So it's like, well, he's pointing to something other than him, and those people are pointing to something other than them. Like, this stuff is all passed word of mouth through like thousands of years of generations. And it's like, I'm just one person in that continuum sharing that message. So, but that message is becoming more clear despite all this noise, because of this, what has been termed as accelerationism, where like these pressures happen, these things bad happen in the world. I think I shared this with you, last week, but it basically enables progress to be made. And I think it's a problematic worldview, but it's also ironically, just the way karma and natural law, as we say, works. Because it's just consequence. The law works in our favor if we think we have the truth. If we think we understand the laws of the universe and what we're saying right now is true, then the universe is on our side and will assist us. So that's good. That's good to know. And there's some trust in that.
Yeah, I agree. And I have another question for you, because I've been hearing a lot about this. This is kind of popping up more, just kind of randomly. It's kind of weird.
Sure.
Because I talk a lot about shadow work, and I know you've spoken about it. What are your thoughts on forced shadow work?
Forced shadow work. So what do you mean by forced in particular?
That I think it's really digging deep and really going into the dark aspects of maybe stuff that has happened to you, some traumas and stuff like that. And I'm kind of getting some people saying maybe not everybody's meant to kind of uncan that can of worms. Like some people are, maybe it's better that they keep a lid on it. And I was kind of thinking, like, because everybody's so unique, right? And I got me thinking. I was like, geez, like maybe some people aren't meant to dig that deep. I don't know the answer. I don't know. So I want your thoughts, because it's creeping up. People are asking me these things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm of the worldview, especially, on the topic of health, it becomes very apparent. It's kind of how, like, we see the effects and manifestation very clearly. It's how our health is. And health, think of it like a status bar in a video game. Is it 100% or is it 90%? Where's the bar? Health just represents whole. And when you're looking at the whole of society, you're right. There's a lot of facets. There's a lot of different dependencies. So I don't like to generalize, and I do have to look at each individual and their case. And sometimes it's just talking with them. Sometimes it's people learn in different ways as well. People have different interests. They have different upbringings. Some violent, some more mentally abusive. Like, I talk about mental slavery. That could sometimes be more dangerous, even though it's not physical. And that's because it leads to physical, or creates a perpetuation of the problems, where then you don't know how to get yourself out. So, you can say, well, the person who got more violently in it, they learned quicker because of how violent it was. That doesn't mean it's a good thing to do. So it's, I think there's different ways to approach it. That's why you have so many different types of therapies: Gestalt therapy, Soma therapy, or just Soma in general means body, using exercise, not even having to use any particular type of psychotherapy. And again, there's different types of meditation. I mean, you look into Buddhism, it's way complicated. That's why I laugh when Christians say they understand other religions, or claim to know really anything, because I don't claim to know the answers, and I don't claim to know how the world should work for everyone. It's part of the reason why I'm a voluntarist, why I believe people should be free. It's because there's people who think that they know how the whole world should work for everyone else, and then they put them in a position of authority and say everybody else must obey. And it's one thing to say, okay, I know how everything should work, and you don't have to follow me, and I'm going to educate you and show you. Another would be like, oh, I'm going to use violence, and I'm going to force you to go along with it, because if I don't force you, then the world isn't going to work. So force has to be very careful with, because that is the basic justification for government, is like, well, they're too bad, so we have to use force. It's the justification for force. But if you mean force not in the violent sense, but more so like just confronting the shadow and like head on and being like, I'm gonna go right into it, I think there's value in that for sure.
Right.
But yeah, violent methods are definitely not ideal, and people are different. So
that's right. That's what I always go back to, is like people want to kind of give an answer that fits everyone, and I find in a lot of the cases, and I'm just like, okay, it sounds great as a sound bite, and kind of like even in these discussions it kind of sounds great, but then you get out to the real world, and you just go out and talk to people, and you realize people are so different.
Yep.
People have so many different, God, it's so random, and I'm just like, okay, there's got to be a bigger discussion, and that's why I wanted to ask you about the forced shadow work. I'm all for shadow work, that. I think there's such great value in it, but I also think that there's might be a case where it's not good for the person, and I'm not qualified to judge that or anything. It's just conversation, and I think it's an important thing, because I agree. Think some people might say, like, I don't want to visit that trauma.
Yes.
I want to leave it buried, and then people are like, no, you got to do that shadow work, or you're not
right.
funny. And I don't know, man.
Oh, exactly.
Maybe it's meant to be left alone.
Yeah, that's huge right there, and there's a lot you can like kind of go into. based on that, and I would want to reflect on that answer, to be honest with you, because I don't want to say anything that is just, for anybody out there.
Yeah, it's just what I think about, but it's interesting. I take it. I think shadow work is very important, and I want to make that very clear. And I think it's so valuable. But I think that there's, once again, you got to kind of look at each individual person, and to say that they're not doing it is they're not doing it the right way, or they're not doing it my way, or whatever. I just think there's a conversation there, so I'll leave it at that. I agree, and I do want to say it becomes ideological, just like anything else. People become attached to certain methodologies, just like anything else, and then guess what? It's ironic, but the person who says that they don't have an ego and that they've done shadow work is the person that needs to do shadow work and has an ego. I'm just saying, it happens more than you think. People who are spiritual, in my experience, and the people I've met, and my parents will say it too, they're not like the most sane, and that's okay. That's because they're working on it. That's why they do shadow work. But that's the irony of it, is that the people who do it are the ones that need it. So they start to say, okay, well, I've done it, and now this is the structure of it, and now I need to share it with others. Careful, right? It's like, well, people are gonna first of all look at them like, really? I don't know. And it's expected. And I say this because also, as I've told you and other people, I haven't really had to deal with a lot of traumas myself. So I'm looking at this world of people who are doing shadow work and people who are ignoring shadow work, and I'm kind of confused looking at both. Because in nature, it's kind of like, we don't have a concept of shadow work. It's more so just like be in nature and you'll feel better. Be around family, be around good environments, and then you'll feel better. Sometimes what we say, is shadow work is like this overly complicated structure. It doesn't have to be. It could be really, really a simple thing that people need in their life, and it changes things. Yeah, and I think honesty with yourself is a big one, and like for a lot of this, I think it's just you got to be brutally honest with yourself, and it's so individual. It really is. I always find that these conversations really beneficial. Because it's people are so different, and
yes.
So, as I was just saying, so that's pretty cool. But I just gotta keep an eye on the time here, Corey, because I could talk to you for hours. But I want to talk to you about Cult World because I want you to talk a little bit about this. The question I wanted to ask you about Cult World, and I forgot to ask you last time, was there any? Because you've done 10 episodes. I know you call it a documentary. I call it a docu-series because I think it's brilliant that you've broken it up and really so you focuses on each topic that you want to get into, like each I think it's a great way that you set it up. But is there any of these episodes that even you got freaked out by, disturbed by, like you were shocked by what you discovered, and what ones were they, or if you want to dive into that a bit?
I think the celebrities one was just hit me a little hard because I felt like the part where I go into Hollywood is just a little too dark, and I didn't know if I should include it at first.
You could have, yes.
Yeah, but they put things on display in Hollywood, and I sort of made that point, is like you have these other cults and they kind of keep dark things hidden, but Hollywood's whole idea is to, they have things that are kept hidden just like any other cult, but because they're in the show business where they create media for the purpose of other people viewing it, they put symbols and things in there that are questionable, to say the least. And some of it, can be photoshopped and fake, whatever, but even if just one of them were true, it's like, why is that in the kids movie? Why is this actress going through this? Why are all these musicians having drug problems and not feeling like they have enough money and having to bow down to these contracts? And so it was kind of just enlightening to me because I don't understand that celebrity world. Like, I knew it's not a good idea to be a celebrity philosophically, but when you actually look into the material part of it, they're kind of working for money just like everybody else. And they're kind of struggling just like everybody else. And people don't necessarily want to acknowledge that. Even the billionaires and the millionaires that people attack all the time, they too have their struggles, and they too are still chasing the dollar. And I think it's just worth learning, and I had sort of that reformation when I was making it, because I didn't expect what I would come across looking at other people and how they've detailed cults through these various fields. But that was probably the biggest one for me, because also as an editor, I have to like look through these clips again and again, and it was just hard to have to look through that one multiple times. Like, I just couldn't bear looking at it. It felt very artificial to me, very indoctrinative, that even me just being exposed to it, I felt like it was corrupting my innocence in a way, because it's kind of what it's meant to do, right? Is it's meant to put subconscious messages in you. So you feel like just by seeing it, there's something being planted in you, and it's like, I don't even want to be exposed to it, because I don't think anyone should be exposed to it. It's not natural. So that's what the hard thing about making this content sometimes is, even like work on slavery. It's like, I shouldn't have to produce it. And there's that irony where it's like you're producing it and it can corrupt you away from that original sense. This is why I wrote down my nature philosophy, naturosophy, and I emphasize it so much, just because I tried to write down what I believe to be my original sense. Meaning, I did not get any philosophical influence for my own philosophy. I didn't read anybody else's work. I didn't want to be influenced by others, because I wanted to just get a pure sense of reality. But it's so hard to do that if you're growing up and even just the language you use is taught by other people and programmed to limit ideas. Just by the very language, and then just by the translations, and people have a lot of problems with Latin. It's in English. Right. If you look at people who are linguists, they'll be like, yeah, there's problems everywhere. Right. But I don't know. There's tons of things you could study in the world, and for me, what's more valuable than studying all those things is trying to get an original sense of self, and that becomes harder as you get older to some sense. So I try to keep in touch with my childlike self, which is another irony, because we're also kept as children, immature for certain things, but a childlike self in another sense, which means to have fun and have play and to have a joy for the world and to have an open mind. That's why they get exploited. That's why they get targeted by these industries. That's where I often play with my ideas. My ideas, if you want to break it down to the very fundamental, comes down to beauty and love. And those two main themes override all my work with nature. Because you can equally say love is the answer, but I say nature is the answer. Now, why? Is because I believe that's the root to these other concepts. But those are like the motivating forces behind my work, and it's also motivating forces behind a lot of poets, people who produce type of creative arts, and that's because they're channeling that inner child who's very creative and then finding a way to put it on paper, which I had a hard time doing growing up, being an inventor, making board games and card games and stuff. I couldn't write my ideas down. I had them in my head, but I could not conceptualize them. But at the cost of conceptualizing them, as I do now, I now have less creativity. Or at least I think I do. I don't know. I can't go back in time. But I'm pretty darn sure I was quite creative as a child. I may not have been logical. I may not have been moral, and depending on the context, but I was certainly creative.
I've always been creative. I get what you're saying, and that's what they attack, is that creativity and
yes, innocence.
Oh yeah, they prey on that, and I love poetry, by the way. I'm glad you brought that up. I've been writing poetry forever, and it's just something I really enjoy, and
yes,
it's a great way to get your thoughts out, like you said, and it's a great therapy for me. I don't know, and journaling, I love journaling, so I'm constantly writing down things, and I think that's very beneficial too. It's another tool. I look at all these things as tools to get to know who I am, exactly, and try to sort out what's really me and what's been put there.
Poetry's special. It's not just a tool. It's a very powerful tool.
And do you think that's being lost? Do you think, like, I was going to ask you this, it might sound like a silly question, but I'm being serious. Do you think that people are losing the ability to live in the moment?
Oh yeah, for sure, without a doubt. I see it all around me in my own family. It disappoints me, and there's nothing I can do about it.
But that's so crazy that we just said that. When I think about it.
Well, your previous question, is poetry missing? Yeah, just as much as ancient architecture.
Exactly.
I don't think it's a coincidence.
Yeah, like these are the things that upset me when I think about it. It's just like I see people, just the two examples. I see the creativity in so many ways, and I'm not saying I don't. I know a lot of creative people. Believe me, creativity
Absolutely.
gets around, but we're losing certain things, and I think the written word is for me one of them. And I think that it's just to me, it's so upsetting to see that people are losing that ability to live in the moment. People are so in the past, in the future,
Yeah,
not
but it's
where they
because
should be.
they believe it's not valuable. That's the problem. It's their values, right? So time is their most valuable thing. Their life is ran by time. It's ran by money. And because of that, they give no value to these other pursuits. Oh, I could never be an artist. Oh, I can't dance. This is what I hear from everyday people, and ask them. Oh, I don't think I can do it. Oh, I can't do it. I don't have time to do it. Oh, I have to go to my job. It's these excuses. Again, they're justifications to kind of ignore our nature and things that we know we could do or should do. And we haven't found an outlet or an avenue to go about doing it. Now, where does AI come in? To kind of go full circle, you can say, hey, these are all my problems, and what should I do? AI might suggest, hey, maybe you should start getting to drawing. Maybe you should start doing art, right? It's like, oh, thanks, AI. I didn't consider that, and now I'm going to consider that. So it's opening an interesting avenue, but where it actually can help with self-reflection, and I think that's going to be a very interesting path right forward, because doctors aren't helping a lot of people right now, and I'm sure many people will want an AI doctor, as well as an AI governor, and then soon it'll be AI everything. But that's because they value it, and if they valued nature, you can ask yourself, well, what would that look like instead, right? Or if you're religious, God. Because you have to ask yourself, what would be above AI? It would have to be one or the other.
That's a good point. That's a really good point, and that's a sweet way to kind of bring it full circle. I wanted you to let people. We didn't get to this last time, Corey. Let people know about the Liberator 2 and what that's all about, because you did bring up being an editor, and I was like, I got to remember to ask them at the end to kind of talk about that and let people know what it is. If they want to get involved, anything like that, I want to make sure I give you time to let people know about it.
No, thank you. The Liberator 2 news found on theliberator.us. You can find it there, and you can actually send me articles, and I'll be turning them into videos. I also post them on the website, and I send them out to a newsletter with thousands of people on it. So it's a good way to get the word out and to collaborate. I tried creating a platform for people to sort of collaborate. And originally I founded it with William Douglas, who I haven't heard back from now for probably almost 2 years. And I don't know at what point I get concerned, but he did have involvement in the Church of the Latter-day Saints, and had some private affiliations with different groups that he didn't want to be completely public with. And after I published my slavery book, I just never heard from him again. So that'll be a case of history that we'll, I guess, find out in time. But if anybody wants to collaborate and be a part of that project, let me know, because right now I'm alone on that project. So I haven't made a whole lot of progress in it. It's there, it's sitting there. I don't know if I'll ever retire the project, but it's just the system I had going originally with William was good, and then it kind of just died off because I need some core writers. I need people who I can rely on, who I can partner with. I was still doing most of the work anyways, with the newsletter and the site, but I like to try to create collaborative things, and as my channel grows, I'll create more collaborative things. I feel like independent media could do a lot more collaborative things, but I'll continue to speak up about that. I'm going to focus more on my local projects as much as I can. Unfortunately, also, my local project is a little bit on hold because family things happen, not with me, but with other people, where, if someone's health is declining or something, then I have to give them space or give them time. So I have to play things out and kind of flow, and I don't know where the future holds for me or the world, but, just got to have trust and love, and I still meet people who are beautiful individuals every single day. And I'm trying to do the impossible by creating a land project here when I can literally create it anywhere else with far less funds. but we're still going to try to do it. And if I have to create somewhere else, great. But if I can create it here, I'll tell you right now that it will probably be the greatest potential for the truth community and movement that you've ever seen. And that's how big this project is, that people can't even conceive of it. I can't even describe it. But that's because this is the fastest growing city in all of America. To get land here, you're literally looking for like a needle in a haystack. So, you know, yeah. Okay. I mean, maybe I'll meet someone else with land. I don't know. It comes out through synchronicity that I do find these people. But it's just that right now I'll stick with, Bigfoot Food Forest and where we got it. But if we have to move it or figure something out, we'll see where things go. It's been a bit, and we're very transparent with this process. It's just that, you have different players who are part of this, and we have to make sure everybody's happy and that contracts work well too. Because if I'm going on someone else's land and I am growing stuff and I'm putting money in material into it with other people, I want to make sure that's secure for my community and for the future generations, and make sure nobody can buy it off of us, make sure the government can't come in or whatever. And there's a lot involved in that. Unfortunately, the barriers to entry to create just a simple community center is atrocious, because you have all these legal and law stuff that gets in the way, which only reinforces, what I'm talking about, obviously. But it's a pain in the butt, because I want to create a space where people can socialize and do all the things that we're talking about on this podcast, That'd be
great. Yeah, I hope I think it will happen, and I think you do a lot of work, man. And I tell people that all the time. You put out so much content and are involved in so many things, and then you come out with your documentary Cult World, and that's not a small project either. So you're definitely getting it out there. But it's kind of neat that you talked about what the land thing and stuff, and that there is this part that people don't see, and that's all the paperwork and
absolutely, man,
that goes into it, right? So I like to let people know, and it's just like when you do content like you're doing on YouTube and stuff, there's this part that people don't see.
Exactly.
They see the product, right? And it's like, well, there's time that goes into this and everything, and
absolutely,
and dress and all these kind of things. But but we got about 2 minutes left, so I got to make sure I keep an eye on the time. But is there anything you want to let people know, Corey? I'll give the last 3 minutes totally to you if you want to let people know about your YouTube channel, your websites, anything you want. The floor is yours, my friend.
Well, thank you. I'm trying to pave my future and figuring it out, as I go. I think I wouldn't be the only one in this generation who doesn't know what the future looks. This generation is quite confusing if you're in my age bracket. So there's a lot to navigate. Luckily, I started to see things early on, but it's not necessarily a good thing per se. For a long time, I never really had friends, and still I'm like, do I have like a solid friend my age? I mean, I have tons of friends way older than me, which is perfectly fine, but there's just this whole social fabric that we need to pierce. And if I can create momentum on the college campuses or among this generation by building a community center, I just know that even if just one of those projects pop off, it could do a lot in our world. But I'm not looking for all the clout or anything. I just want to be happy, have a family one day and be content, just probably like most other people here. And so, just working up toward it. It's just that there's a lot of questions, because I'm in a very unique position. Somebody asked, do I make my income sources on books? The truth is, I'm trying to make my income. I'm trying to make the place that will create the income. But I live with my parents, and I don't have expenses of my own. And I've been fortunate for years to be able to do this work, but how long do I want to do this until I actually make a living out of it? And I don't want to make a living doing this content creation. And I know you're probably like, well, why? And the reason why is just because I don't want to be dependent on it, and I originally created it out of my passion and of my care. If I happen to, that'd be awesome, but I don't think that'll happen unless you're like consistently persistent, which I am, but that's not the point. I'm not the type to plug, and I'm not the type to spend my whole life online independent to it. I would rather have a real life base and then film that and use that for content creation like I've been doing, and everything's working out good. So as long as things progress, just I don't know where the future holds, right? Because things can happen any moment. So Just
Right,
gotta.
and that's exciting. It's exciting though, man. That not knowing, I think it's kind of.
Oh yeah, yeah, it is. If you play it for fun, for sure. And I've had like the time of my life doing this stuff. So I will tell you that. So I just got to keep a good mindset on my shoulders though, because you're going to get a lot of judgment though from people who think that maybe I'm just online playing video games all day when I'm doing this work. It's like
you're not.
Right. Well, you understand. A lot of people understand, but not a lot of people.
Well, thank you so much, Corey. The show, we hit the end. Thank you so much, Corey. What a great conversation. I appreciate all the work you're doing.
Just being honest.
Take care, my friend.
I appreciate it.
Take care, my friend.
Cool. The classic cutoff. What's up, guys? DK Spiracy, Mibu Tempest. So many your age understand, but they're just quiet and can't articulate the same caliber. Exactly. I mean, I've developed a lot over the years. Mibu, are you Mod Out of Creation? Is that who you are? I mean, you've seen me through the years. I mean, even my content has progressed quite a lot. Jonathan Swift. Okay. Now, there's like 5 different Jonathans I know, so you could be one of the Jonathans. But hello, welcome to the chat. Yeah, yo, dude, guys, Mod Out of Creation, he goes way back. I say that now. It's only been like what, 5 years? It's still, it's way back. All right, like 6 years now, actually. I started my channel back in 2019 on Halloween. I didn't start my channel out the best. I'd have a lot more views if I didn't start out my channel talking about 5G and all sorts of weird things. But I still use the same channel, even though I definitely should start a different channel, if I don't want to face all the interesting complications the algorithm might give to me. But I have other channels I've experimented with, but it's just like, do you want to abandon something that you build up for 4 or 5 years with 4,000 plus people? Like, if I tell you guys right now to subscribe to another channel that I created, you're not going to do it. You're just not going to do it. No one's going to do it. Even if people watch the replay, they're not going to do it. Even if I post it on a community section, they're not going to do it. It's just not going to happen. But no, I mean, I don't know. Again, don't know what the future holds. The college project could take off. The land project could take off. It's good I have different options that could take off, but we don't know. Definitely, I don't know about content creation. It's not one I have in mind. Let's just put it that way. Yo, Crypt Rick, man, I haven't seen you in forever. I'm just kidding. I was just talking to Crypt Rick, everyone. Be sure to check out his channel, Crypt Rick. You see him in the chat. If you're able to go to his channel, hey, Crypt Rick, are you able to link your own channel in the chat? Maybe you can link it, and then people can go check it out. Am I talking about politics? Well, no. Am I? What are we talking about? Politics? I'm just like talking about different projects I'm doing, different stuff I'm up to. But what makes you ask? Was I talking about politics? I don't think I was talking about politics. I'm not going into politics, that's for sure. That's not an option for me. Yeah, I'm going to go run for president. Everybody used to say that when I was 16. There was a politics tag. Oh, okay. Well, hey, we can talk about politics. Listen, where do you fall within the political spectrum, my friend? As you see back here, it says netty, not this, not that. We're quite rebels over here in this neck of the woods. So if you have an open mind and you're willing to learn, then, then there's quite a lot we can share about politics. Maybe not the prettiest of things about politics, but nonetheless politics. There you go. Crypt Rick linked it in the chat. You guys can check it out. He's got a lot of great interviews. Everybody should check it out. Thank you, Crypt Rick. Thank you. I'll probably end my stream here shortly. But I like doing this kind of weekly thing. I mean, I would do it with you every week, maybe. I don't think you want me to. But I got to go live more often, generally speaking. But I also got to work on other things. So, I don't know. It depends. But I want to do a whole series on naturosophy, that whole philosophy of nature and breaking down different things. It's become apparent to me that I want to do like a lecture series where I dive into my book material and I actually dissect various parts of it. I think that would be very interesting. Maybe have a whiteboard with me or something. just go like full out Jordan Peterson style lectures, and whether people watch it or not, I just want to have my philosophy out there for the world so people know how I truly think, which again is always just being improved upon. And to say I have no influences is silly, but to try to originate my sense of self is my goal. In my view, there's leftists, liberals, and conservatives. The moderate conservatives are pro-NATO and pro-Ukraine, while the radical right aren't. The liberals are generally pro-Ukraine and pro-NATO. Leftists are generally anti-Ukraine and anti-NATO. Fascinating. Fascinating. So, okay. I mean, there's not much I have to say about that. I'm sorry, my friend, but I'm glad you're here. That's all I got to say. Politics is many bugs. If you break it down, poly means many. Ticks are like blood-sucking insects. So, people usually talk about politicians in the sense of like lying or parasites. Maybe pretty accurate descriptions, but it's not politicians, though, is it? Because we give them power. So maybe the real parasites, the real ticks are us, because there's many, right? There's many politics. It's not few ticks, it's many ticks, and so there's a lot of things that tick people off, right? So we're the politics, and we're the ones that are being corrupted. We say, oh, these people are corrupted. We gotta change them. We're getting corrupted because we're playing the game that they want us to play. And when I say they, I say the people at the very top, or I'm just saying the game that everybody's been playing for thousands of years that people were conditioned into, both the people on the top and the people on the bottom. The conservatives are capitalists, the liberals are capitalists, while lefties are generally either socialists or communists. Yeah, generally speaking, yeah. I guess I'll say yes, that's generally true based on what I've seen out there. But yeah, I don't use any of those isms. I'm just myself. That's it. I'm just trying to live my life, live in peace, live free, and I think that it's time we do that as well. It's at least the case. Yeah, I think it's the case here in America too, generally speaking, except the word liberal is kind of grouped in with leftist over here. So at least based on what I've seen. But it all switches up because 20, 40 years ago, classical liberalism is conservatism now, and then you have paleo-conservatism, and then you get, this and that. It's like, come on, man. Really? Nothing is possible, therefore everything appears to be. See, but see, you come in with that comment, and like I make these statements, and we sound like some hippie looking, like new age spiritual gurus. And then Jonathan's gonna be like, this isn't politics, screw this, I'm out. But I mean, frankly, what it comes down to is moral enlightenment. If you want people to be free and you want people to be orderly and free, then you have to make them moral. But no, we look at freedom as like diametrically opposed to order, and then we don't look at morality at all. So we're just basically ignoring all of them, all of the above. And then which ones are we left with? Authority, idolatry, essentially, worshiping man, and heteronomy, giving away our conscience and our autonomy to other people, and a lack of honesty, creating titles and positions that aren't natural or real, and then believing that those authorities' positions can alter reality, shift it by the mere decree of a pen and an outfit. How wonderful. Hey, Jonathan Swift, are you like are you AI? No, I'm just kidding. Well, I'm curious, what makes you go into this rant? Is there something that you have to share with me? Is this like leading up to a question, or are you just like giving me the news briefing of Europe at the moment? Yo, DK Spiracy, you should definitely follow Rick. He's cool. Yeah, and how you doing, DK? Haven't heard from you in a while. Those who are democratic and those who are authoritarian. I find it interesting. Political. Yeah, I got you. I appreciate that. I think authoritarianism being opposed to the idea of democracy or to being democratic is an interesting comparison, considering the fact that the word democracy is kind of blurred just as much as communism and conservatism, because you have to like dive deep and actually understand what an individual believes. And again, just because an individual believes something, it doesn't mean they have to impose on others and create some authority in man. Like, we get trapped on these ideologies in our traditions or our challenging of traditions, our personal worldviews, like, is abortion good or not? Is having migrants in my town good or not from different cultures? These are separate from the politics I'm talking about. These are personal quarrels, personal prejudices, personal opinions. They don't need to be imposed on everybody. And this is the way the whole world should operate, and because of this arbitrary line we call this country and this group of people, now we have to use force and violence and all this stuff. We create this grandiose justification, right, off of what seems like good intentions, what seems like a really just a solid opinion. Like, yeah, I agree with you. I think this is wrong. I think this is right. And then we take that and then we bring it to everyone. We tell the whole world and we say, hey, you know what? This is what's right, and it must be declared. It must be the degree. And we must create a king, a magistrate, a legislate, and they must hereby declare what is true for everybody else. It's just silly when I word it like that. But for the average person, they talk about it like it's just some normal conversation. Like, yeah, what's for dinner today? Oh, what ice cream you want later? Oh, yeah, you like red? I like black. Oh, you like that? Oh, man. Meanwhile, in the political sphere, it's like, oh, you don't like the color red? Oh my gosh, you're racist. It's like, and now we got to put a ban on this, and oh my gosh, we got to make sure this person's control. It's like, holy moly, just relax for a moment, Oh my gosh. And people are still going to be people. Like, there are plenty of problems in a free world, as I describe, a voluntary world. A world based on consent, a world not of rulers, but of rules. And there are many problems with that world, but you know what? I think of them as natural problems. I think of them as problems that exist, that are always going to exist, and that humans can try to minimize, but only through education and through methods that aren't violence, And then cases where, of course, they do violence to you, you might want to defend yourself and use violence back, though you might not call that violence, you might just call that self-defense or force. Various ways to handle problems. But the question is legitimizing problems, growing problems, etc. So, anyways, I think I'm done for today, and so I appreciate everybody watching, staying tuned. And adios. We'll be starting to do some music/band reviews each week to change it up a bit. Defense is allowed. Yeah, well, there's different perspectives on that too. Like, I would look up Aiden Ballou, and I would look up Leo Tolstoy. These are considered pacifists. I mean, a lot of these people did not label themselves, but they saw that you got to be careful when you're using this word defense, right? Many times in history, the people who are the revolutionaries, the rebels, the people on the defense believe it is justified, and therefore can do all sorts of horrors that end up creating the same exact system in its place. So you ought to be a little careful of the word defense. And that's what also content creators have to be careful of. Especially people in the natural law community talking about defense publicly, if they have a really big audience, to what extent justifies defense if you consider as a transgression against natural law lying? Does hurting someone justify, is hurting someone justified because someone lied to you, right? Does hurting the Rothschilds, the people in power, is that justified because they were born into that position and that because they were conditioned into that? This opens a lot of rabbit holes. I'm just putting it out there. There's always a little challenge to what people think they know. We'll be starting to do some music. Okay, cool. Read that. All right. Peace out, everybody. Take care. Adios. Which I think means with love or something like that, right? In Spanish. I don't know. Peace out. As they say in Chinese, 再见. 再见. Peace.